What can we anticipate, and what are the controversies about the upcoming Salem's Lot movie remake? This video we will be covering some of the questions that are probably on most Salem's Lot fans' minds and how will these key factors affect the movie when it is released. If you enjoy these Salem's Lot videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel as we cover everything Salem's Lot related in the channel. Now let's get into the topic of the video. Salem's Lot was only Stephen King's second published novel, hitting bookstores in 1975, but nearly half a century later it remains one of the author's most beloved books. That's why there's a lot of excitement surrounding the release of writer and director Gary Dauberman's upcoming adaptation, and everything we've heard about it has only raised our expectations. Controversy number 1. Will there be major parts of the movie cut in order for the story of Salem's Lot to fit into the movie length? At just under 440 pages, Salem's Lot isn't one of Stephen King's longest novels. Other books such as The Dome are all well over 1,000 pages. But that says more about the overall scope of King's storytelling than on anything else. The novel is an epic in its own right, detailing a plague of vampires that begins slowly but grows exponentially until the entire titular city is overrun. Due to the size of the story, the TV miniseries was the preferred approach for adaptation, and one wonders what needs to change in the source material to fit the standard feature length. Even though Gary Dauberman's Salem's Lot is 2.5 hours long, it's still over 30 minutes less than the previous two adaptations, and these TV movies each had to cut and condense a lot of material themselves when translating the book. By Stephen King. From the cast list, it looks like all of the main characters from the novel will be portrayed. We'll just have to wait and see how their storylines will be manipulated and changed to fit the new medium. Controversy number 2, the presentation of the master vampire Barlow? When portraying vampires in live-action films, filmmakers generally go in two directions. Sometimes they look like normal humans but have huge fangs and weird eyes, and other times they appear as hideous demon-like monsters. Stephen King's Salem's Lot portrays Kurt Barlow as being in the first camp, but that's notoriously changed in previous adaptations, so the approach to Gary Dauberman's next film isn't obvious. Rutger Hauer's version of Kurt Barlow in the 2004 adaptation is more like what Stephen King portrays in the book, but the much more iconic version is the blue-skinned creature portrayed by Reggie Nalder in the 1979 TV movie. Given this history, it's unlikely that choosing to go either way would cause much animosity or backlash from fans. It will therefore only be a question of Dauberman's preferences which will decide the choice. We don't currently know what his preferences are, so how Barlow will be portrayed remains a mystery. Controversy number 3. Any hints in the remake about the similarities between the Dark Tower series and Salem's Lot? Although Stephen King never wrote a direct sequel to Salem's Lot, he found a way to return to the story in 2003 with the release of The Dark Tower 5, Wolves of the Calla. The book not only partially recounts the events that unfold in King's second published novel, but also describes Father Donald Callahan's return and reveals what happened to him after his shameful confrontation with Kurt Barlow. Gary Dauberman's film will be the first Salem's Lot adaptation filmed after this development, so all regular readers must be wondering, will the new film possibly offer a clue to its fate? John Benjamin Hickey stars as Father Callahan in Gary Dauberman's Salem's Lot, so at least we know he'll be in the movie, but sadly that's all we know for now. Unlike some of the other questions posed in this feature film, we may not have an answer to this one until the film hits theaters. Controversy number 4. The role of Master Vampire Barlow will be played by whom? When casting began for Gary Dauberman's Salem's Lot in the fall of 2021, it was an exciting time for Stephen King fans. Every cast announcement announced who they would be playing in the adaptation, so we all immediately imagined Lewis Pullman as Ben Mears and Pillow Asbeck as Richard Straker. What's particularly odd, however, is that while we know who's playing almost all of the main roles in the film, we don't know who's playing the main villain, vampire leader Kurt Barlow. Currently, Smart Money states that Barlow will be played by William Sadler since he was the only actor announced as part of the Salem's Lot cast and not specifically with a role when the announcement of his involvement in the production was identified. Given his long past in Stephen King films and The Shawshank Redemption, that would be entirely appropriate, but there's no official confirmation yet. Controversy number 5. What are the impacts of the first two adaptations on the upcoming remake of Salem's Lot? To date, Carrie is the only Stephen King book to have been adapted for film and television 3 times. But Gary Dauberman's Salem's Lot brings the vampire novel source material into this incredibly exclusive club. Tobe Hooper directed the classic 2-part TV movie which premiered in 1979 and Salomon's remake aired on TNT in 2004. Both have their own approaches to the book, and one wonders how those approaches will affect the 2023 version of the story. Gary Dauberman's Salem's Lot won't be more than 180 minutes long than the TV adaptations, more on that in a moment, and as such will be inherently different from them, but one still wonders how the previous versions were live. Action efforts will affect the redo. Will the movie come close to the book where previous versions didn't? Conversely, are the having been there, having done that moments modified to make them fresher? One or both seems entirely possible, but we don't know that on film at this time.